guys, welcome to this. I'm Okechukwu, your host, and today we'll be exploring a tool in Revit called Design Options. I have the Autodesk website open, and their discussion on they have discussion on almost every tool in Revit. So, but for this video, we'll just look at the design options aspect, and according to their definition, it's simply a space where teams can develop and evaluate and redesign building components and rooms within a specific project file or a single project file. And I think this is the key thing for design options, doing it in a single file, single project file. Now, in traditional ways or methods, if we were using, for instance, AutoCAD, what we would do would be to, if not duplicate, so two actual methods, if we're using the traditional way, we would duplicate our project file, and then we would make our changes to the file second file we've created. And so if we are to have 5, 6, 7 iterations of a particular space or a particular design, we would have like 5, 6, 7 different project files, which worked back then, but it's no longer as efficient. And the second way would be to just copy the layout and paste it on the canvas and then do another iteration. But this design option tool in Revit gives us the opportunity to have one model but different iterations of different spaces. So for instance, you can see the illustrations Autodesk used, and here we see a main model with no cover on the roof, and the same model exists, but we have another iteration showing where this roof structure is introduced, another iteration with a different kind of roof structure. All right, and we can create as much as possible with the same file, and so that's the real advantage of design options. And so this series will help us look through and go through the way design options can be used effectively. We also have real life examples which we would discuss to ensure that everyone grasps how to use the tool effectively in Revit. So I'll close this down and I'll go to my file. I'll be working on Revit 2026, and so you can join me and follow along. So we find the design options tool under the manage tab, design options panel, and we have design options tool, add to set, pick to edit, and main model design options. And we'll look at all this and explore them through the series. Now, this tool we have here can also be found at the bottom here, and if we look below here, we would see design options, right? And then this is also part of design options to exclude options, but it's a temporary way of selecting things that are not in our main model. Let's work with this. So I want to rearrange this living room to something else for my client. So I would have 3 options. This will be option 1, and I'll have 2 other options to show to my clients for them to pick the best of the available options. As how design option 2 works is I first select this and it brings out this window for me. Now this is where we set up are option sets and options, and these are two key elements or two key categories in the design option tool. So option set speaks to the, it's more like a parent hosting the different options. Okay, so option set is like a parent, options are like children. So already in this design I already had um, different option sets, different options, and an option set for facade. So the option set is like grouping all the options with a particular iteration together. So for this now, I'm only changing the stuff in the living room. Okay, I could have another option set for the anteroom. I could have another option set for the kitchen. I could have another option set for the bedroom, depending on the different modifications and designs I want to do. Okay, so with that, we can create a new option set. And once you create the default, it comes option set 1 and automatically creates a new option inside the option set. So what we can do is to rename this option set and we'll call it living room layout. And so we have option 1. Now we can come to our options and add new. So we see the more we add, the more options we have. Alright, and we can do as much as possible. So what I will just delete this and leave 3 options for the purposes of this illustration. Once I'm done with that, now I can click close. So I have created my option set for the living room layout and I've created the 3 options I want. Now how do we approach this? We first have to select all the elements we want to be in that particular option set and add the elements to those options. So I want everything here particularly. Okay, so maybe for instance, I'm going to leave the staircase in the same location. So I'll just remove it from my selections. Multi-story step paths, apply, and click OK. Alright. So all these have been selected and I will add them to the option set. So if I come here, I can select add to set, or I can go back to my manage and say add to set is now activated. And so I will go with that. I click add to set and it opens up these windows. And it's asking me for whatever option set we've created, we will see them in this drop down. So it's asking me which option set do you want to put these elements in. I want them in living room, not in facade. So I'll select my living room. And it asks which options do you want them to be in. And I want them to be in I will say all 3 because I'm going to make modifications to all of them. And so once I do that, I'll click OK. Now it's going to give me an error, and I did that to explain something. When an element is hosted by another element, you can't put the hosted element in the design options without the host. Alright. So it gives me this error because of my windows. Now in Revit, windows cannot be isolated. Same thing with doors. They don't exist on their own. Alright. So for instance, I try to add a door. It must be within a wall. They can't exist on their own. And so that error is telling me that I want to add these windows to the design options, but the host, which is the wall, is not being added. And so the window cannot exist on its own. And so if I want those windows in the design option, the wall has to go with it. Okay. So if that's the case and I want the windows there, so that if in one of the options where I would do the furniture arrangement, I can play with the windows to ensure that they fit in properly to the space. So what I can do is to select my windows again and just select the walls that are hosting them, and then I will now add this. I'll use this bottom one, add, select my option set again and add to all three of them, and it's in there. Now you notice also another thing. I selected 1, 2, 3 windows. I never selected this guy, but you can see that this guy is now in an option set, in that option set. Why? Because the host is now in there. So that's how windows and doors work. Same thing if you are doing phases. Okay, if you get rid of the wall, the door goes with it. If you get rid of the window, you get rid of the wall, the window goes with it, because those elements can stay on their own. So if the host goes, they go also. Now, so now that we have done this, in the main model, which is this, and also visible here, we can't select any of the elements we've added. Only the elements that are still left in the main model, that's what we can select. But all the ones we've added, we see that they're not selectable because we've moved them to our option sets. So what we can do is to now go to our option sets. So if we click the drop down, we'll see the different option sets and the options inside option sets and the side. So this is the option set we're working with, and we'll go to option 1. Now we'll notice that everything we added to this option set is bold, and the things that are not added to it are grayed out, which you can see here, and see that window I spoke about. And same thing with all these ones. So the things in the option set are bold, things that are not there are grayed out. Okay, so we can select this, and same thing here. You can see this is still visible. Now when we come here, so let's say we want to make a change. So we said we'll leave this as option 1. All right, so we'll maintain this, and let's go to option 2, and let's say we want this area to be part of our living room. So we'll make that change. We'll create similar and extend this wall here. We'll use DI for dimension, and we'll make this, let's say, 1350, and TR for trimming, and we'll just trim this wall and then join these two together. Now this is the reason why I wanted to add the windows, so that I can move them. So we'll move this window and let's centralize it between these walls. I'll just delete this, and then we'll put a door here, DR, shortcut for door, and place this here. Let's just give this 150, 1350, and delete. Just delete this. So now we've made a change to this option. All right, let's say we want to add another furniture here. So I'll just go to the collection, the library, and I'll just pick. Okay, let me add this one. RO for rotate. Put it at the center. And give it a 90 degrees rotation. Here. Okay. And what else could we change? the distance between this and this 1.4, 1.1. Let's move this out of the way. It's clashing with our wall, and then we just move all this forward. So maybe 1.5. Let me activate this. 1.5 for ample movement. So our path of travel is this way. So let's say this is our option 2. Okay, and we're done with it. Now if we go to option 3, go back to manage, we see that we still retain the original layout we had. The original layout we brought in to this option. Meanwhile, we've made changes to option 2. So let's do something different with option 3. Let's say in option 3 we change our furniture arrangement. Alright, so let's say this, so I'm just pressing spacebar to rotate, spacebar. So let's say this couch comes here and all these elements come to the side, so the TV would be on this wall. So I'll just centralize this, and then I'll move my TV console. Okay, rotate it 90, remove. Let me use a line to get the center of this. Oh, why is it not showing? So I'll move this to this space. And I might just reduce the length of this to, I say 2.1, which I think is fine. For the chairs, I might put a longer couch on this end. Maybe not this full one. I have a 2-seater here. I'll just place that here. I'll get rid of this guy, and I would move. I'll move this. Just rotate this. Yeah. And yeah, this will be here. So this would be our new furniture arrangement. We'll have a TV here. I think I should. Yes, I do a plasma 5 inches. Where do I place this? Place of face. It's on ground floor. Let me take this 900 mm ports. See if it's off. Okay, yeah. So I can just place this here. And the windows also, I can move them to the end so that there is ample space for the console. So here I can just give 300. See, yeah. If it's, I'll do the same thing. Yeah, okay, it's already there. So let's say this is the new arrangement. Okay. Now we see that we have been able to create 3 different iterations of the space. And what happens is if I go back here and go back to option 2, I have the previous iteration. If I go back to option 1, I have the original iteration. Alright, and so this way we can play with a lot of options and create different styles for our design and test out different things, and then at the end of the day we pick what's best for us from it. Okay, So that's simply how design option works. You create an option set, you rename it, you add options to it, and you go to those options. You select the elements you want to add to those options. You add them in there, make modifications, and then they are now isolated. So we see option 2 is this, option 3 is this. I can have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, as much as I like. Okay, now to explain something, we see here we have this option as primary. What this simply means is whenever we go back to our main model, this is the option that will be visible. Okay, so if I click finish editing here, we see that we return back to the main model mode, which is main model. We see it also here, main model. All right, and so what that primary is saying is the layout for the primary is what would show when we are in main model, where we can now select other elements that we didn't add to the design options. All right, but once we go back here and pick another option, the now selectable, and then we can see this. Another thing to note, when you're in an option, you can't create an option set or add an option. You only do that when you're in main model mode. Okay, so that's one thing to note. So we'll go back to main model, and we can open this up, and we see that they are now all active. So I can come here to option 2. Once I select it, this becomes active. I can rename, duplicate, or delete. I can make primary. Elements in main model will be deleted. Okay, edit and make primary. Let's see. Close. So we see that this second layout is now what is visible. Okay, and if I change to option 1, I can see option 1, but when it's in main model mode, I see option 2. And we can do the same thing for if we make option 3 primary. So depending on what you want to do. And then lastly, also we also should note that 2D elements are not design options friendly. Okay, so for instance, this lines now are 2D lines. So if I delete them and I go to whichever option I go to, they all go. All right, now this wasn't showing before, this dimension, because it was hosted to this orientation of the chair. And so when this orientation goes out, this goes out. So it's for dimensions, they kind of, if they are anchored or hosted to elements in the design options, they go with it. All right, so but for this, once I change, the dimension goes because it's hosted to that element, and this one remains here because it's hosted to this. And with this, I have no dimensions, but in all, they are not 2D friendly. 2D friendly. So whatever 2D element you delete affects the entire view. All right, it affects the entire view. So we must have that in mind. So we're only adding 3D elements. Like we can see, even the rooms are 3D elements, so we can add rooms. And we'll discuss using design option rooms in more details later. So, but for this room tags, they are 2D elements. Okay, so we see that they're active in the main model, but once we change, so let's say an option 1 is without a room tag, and we can add just do RT or come to room tags here on the architecture tab and the room area panel, and then we can add them back. All right, they're grayed out now because this is not the primary. Okay, if I go to primary, you see that the ones in the primary are active, and if I go to option 3, they don't exist there anymore because they are hosted to that particular room. All right, so but would look at that in more details. So I can just do RT for shortcut and add this here. And I'll just go back to my main model. So yeah, so this is basically the idea of design options. So thank you all for joining me for this quick session. Please, if this helped you, endeavor to like and subscribe, and then just you can turn on the notification bell. As we go along this series, we'll be updating other parts of the design options too in subsequent times. So turn on the notification bell so that you know when the new video drops, and then you can tag along. If you have any questions, do well to drop them in the comment box. I'll do my very best to respond and attend to every one of them. Thank you all for joining me today, and see you guys next time. Bye.